Ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats as quickly as possible, please. We are ready to begin. Thank you.
We reached 300 online.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you could take your seats as quickly as possible, please. We are a full house here today, so if you could find your seats, thank you. Lovely, thank you very much, thank you. Superb, thank you very much. Thank you very much if you are joining us here in the room for coming back so promptly, thank you. If you are joining us online, how lovely to have your company. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a little over 300 people joining us online. So absolutely, it is a huge community that we have together here. So whether you are here in the room or online, I trust you enjoyed your coffee break and you are ready for the next part of our session. I think we are good to go. Wonderful. So we started with an excellent overview from Professor Bridget Emmett about the research, the issues that there are when it comes to peat, when it comes to construction use, putting more soil into landfills, whatever it was. She gave us a really good overview of what the state of soils are across the EU. What we're going to do now is turn to policy, not only to hear what policies have achieved, but also to hear from 3 different land managers who are dealing with those policies and to find out how that is working for them and what they feel they need to do next. But what we will do is start with the policies from the very top. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the head of the unit, Research and Innovation at DG AGRI at the European Commission. Please welcome Kerstin Resnoff. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. It's a real pleasure for me to be here. And if Bridget gets the right to get emotional, so I think I get that right too. Because if we would be standing here 4 years ago when we actually started working out on this project, which is the soil mission, nobody would have believed that we really get it even to the stage to a European Horizon mission. And I think for me this is very important to really say as an entry statement, because already the speakers before have said it, and also Maciej, our head of cabinet, mentioned it. So the mission is not just another European research project. So we need a lot of European research projects. It's by no means diminutive about what we do. But the idea was really a different one, was really to say, okay, we start with a given societal challenge. We try to get it up on the research, policy, farmers, foresters, civil society agenda, and we try to pull all the actions that we can at European level under one roof, and we try to get common action going. So when I was listening to the Secretary-General here before saying that the mission sparked action on different ways of soil mapping or different policy commitments or action on fertilizer use or whatever. So that is really something where I say, okay, I do get a bit emotional, because this was not a given. And at the time we started out, at least at EU level, but also somewhere else, soil was more like a niche area, whereas what Bridget made brilliantly clear, it's the very basis, it's really the basis for so many things without which we cannot live. So it was not, let's say, at the level where it should be, neither on the policy agenda nor on the research agenda. So this is why, even if our goal is not make EU soils healthy by 2030 in the mission, it is at the EU soil strategy and also part of the legislative framework, so we're there. And soil is there, and the very proof here that we can fill a room with all of you here and be together and really exchange with the community on the level that we do, policy, research, and all of this together really makes a difference. So I think that that's really a great thing that we managed to get the mission there in the first place. So now, this is a very bad slide, so lots of things nobody can read, but okay, there is a message with this. And Bridget has already been partly showing it. Soil is the one single resource that is in most of the Green Deal strategy, of course, apart from climate maybe, but it's everywhere. So we have managed to be or get a central focus in as many as 12 Green Deal strategies across the board. If we talk about forest, climate, rural areas, whatever, soil is central. And that also reflects where it is today on the political agenda. And that is quite important for us as a basis and also giving us the legitimacy to act further and also, in the end, put the money where our mouth is, so also support all of this. So because it doesn't come without a cost. So I think that is central. And this here is what we call jokingly the holy trinity of soil at EU level. So it's very important that when we started out, that there was not even an attempt at creating an EU policy framework. So soil is the one not protected natural resource at EU level. So we have water, we have air for a number of years, but we failed for the most important. No, I shouldn't be saying this, so the others are important as well, but so for a central natural resource, we failed to create this EU policy framework. So this is really a chance that we have now, so that we can really work together. And for us also, it really means a different way of working together. So you see here, we have representatives from the Spanish Research Ministry, from the Agricultural Ministry, from all kinds of, we will have from the ecological transition part. So this also reflects that EU policy level, we have been working together in a different way. So we have really trying to pull these things together and to really create and work on the issues ahead. So the soil strategy, but now when we, for instance, were working together with our colleagues from DG Environment on the soil monitoring law, and also on the sustainable carbon cycles communication, we were doing it together. And we were looking, okay, what can we, through the mission, provide as means to actually enable the goals of these strategies or of these directives? And it's a different way of working. And we work, Bridget was saying it very clearly, if we don't monitor, if we don't even, first of all, know what soil health is and how we define it, so where are we, what do we monitor, then it's very difficult to shape actions. So I think this is why this trinity of working together with policy framework, with observation, and in the end providing research and innovation results and co-creation on innovation and creating impact on the ground, this can make things move, even if soils move slowly. So I think that's key from this point of view. Just a word more on the directive on soil monitoring and resilience. So that has been proposed. So now we hope it will be adopted, because it's one thing to propose it. So it's one thing to get it adopted, and it's one thing to have meaningful action in it. So this is all of you. This is really your job, apart from signing the soil manifesto. So really going out there and making sure that our politicians who will decide on this in the future knows what are at stake, and will make sure that as high as, let's say, the ambition can be, will be part of this legislative framework. So the directive sets the objectives, defines, also very heavily also having worked together on this with the European Environmental Agency, with what the Mission Board did as a basis in terms of indicators, Monitoring assessment is key, of course, support services, sustainable soil management, also the contaminated site, as Bridget was saying. So there we are, so things to do. And it's costly, so also funding and reporting. So we've just started the political process, and we hope that this law or this directive will be approved as soon as possible. So just to show you a little bit how closely these things are interconnected. So we have inbuilt, so this directive, already action of the soil mission. So if you read not only the entry pages of this, it's very clear the soil mission is mentioned already at many places where basically your action is going to be central for the goal that and the ambition that this directive sets. So we have really the policy framework that frames future action, which is great. So the objectives obviously are common, but we also have a number of actions, for instance, on harmonization of the monitoring framework, so transfer functions and interlaboratory calibration. There's increased knowledge on soil health indicators, so when soil's capacity of delivering ecosystem services is lost, and so on. And also knowledge on which practices in specific soil types, for instance, climatic conditions and land uses really translate. So there's more, there is to come, but these are just a couple of areas where we will closely work in the coming years, so to provide input into this process. We've talked about it before, so you all know the specific objectives, so Bridget has also showed them, and I think it's central here again, even if I'm from the Directorate Agriculture and Rural Development, this doesn't mean that we only work on agricultural soils, and that is central. So we work on all soils and on all land uses. So we work on urban soils as much as we work on forest soils, as much as we work on agricultural soils, and that's central. So it's a comprehensive set without which we will not achieve the goals that we have set ourselves. And for some of the areas, it's maybe a bit, we have to do a bit more capacity building, so to get actions going, so that we can already see a little bit. Then you all know the 4 areas of action that the mission works at. So of course, we continue to have a research and innovation program. The mission is rooted in research and innovation, but goes much beyond, as you've just seen. Policy action, action on the ground, action with civil society. So in terms of socio-economic research and foundations, there's still a lot to do. Business area and so on, and also obviously on all the other areas. So we know a lot about soils, but not everything. So we have to continue that. But then we have to also create impact on the ground. And I also already take a minute here to talk about living labs and lighthouses. It's very fashionable, I would say, the last 10 years to speak about living labs. So yes, but then I will tell you, so maybe, but even when we were getting together at the mission board and we were kind of trying to set out what do we mean when we talk about living labs, I can tell you it took us a half a year to agree what we talk about. And then we have now worked for almost 2 years with the European Network of Living Labs to make sure that we get something out there which reflects a real bottom-up approach. So living labs are, in our definition, not another set of experimental farms or demo farms working together with research institutes already for a number of years. No, it's really from a bottom-up program from a given farmer or forester having a given program and a problem or challenge in a given pedoclimatic condition to find the research or the innovation or whatever else can be as a media, so business, whatever on the ground to help him find or her a solution on a given problem. And then you know exactly that this is not the typical action we would implement under any given research and innovation program at EU level. So it takes time, it takes capacity building, but the idea is really to have impact on the ground, because it's not the usual actors that are already in there that are aware. And that obviously makes it more difficult. So that's why we need all of you here. So that's key. Then soil monitoring. So that we have already said. So no, it's not undoable. So we have to do it. Let's do it. Lucas covers part of it. Individual action cover part of it, but we're not there yet. So we have to do more, and we will. And last but not least, soil literacy, communication, and citizen engagement. And again, there, citizen engagement is something, again, which is very popular, but those of you who have been in real citizens engagement event in a given national language, really trying to get the ordinary citizens who doesn't know maybe about what we do at EU level and how it all works and whatever engaged, is not so easy. It's a challenge. So I can build testimony of that, having been in some of those events. So where are we? Of course, a little bit of where we are with the implementation. So we have had 3 consecutive work programs for research and innovation. So slowly phasing in, setting up the structures, but hoping to be in cruising speed. So we have already invested over 300 million into the different areas that we work at. So we have many of the projects that work on given areas that you've seen in this in the slide before, on the four areas. It's time during this event to find out where we are already. You will see some more typical research and innovation projects, but also some less so. So for instance, for the SAD Living Labs, so we had a project holding engagement sessions, so in all member states, to make sure that we even get ready for applications for the Living Labs. We have things where we work into territorial management agreements for soil health, for instance, and other things. So there's a lot of things going on, and some of the projects that we started already have results, and it's great that we have many of them here where you can find out more and also get some concrete things which are useful for your daily work. So in the 22 work programs, we worked on all the mission building blocks. To build up the Living Lab support structure, on monitoring, for instance, on soil carbon and GHA balance monitoring. So for the mission repository, carbon farming, soil pollution and restoration, and more. So we also will launch the International Research Consortium on Carbon. That is an important event on the international part of the mission later. And with the 23 work program, so the most important area, maybe in terms of challenge, it's not more important than other areas, of course, but was the launch of the Living Lab call, where we were not sure if we would even get enough proposals for the SAD difficulty or challenge. Also, for instance, how do you reward farmers or foresters or urban communities when they dedicate time? So when they come and work with us on the given challenge, for instance, just to say a very few practical things. So this was quite challenging and cumbersome, and many here in the room, so the policy actors, which were actually promoting this, so also from the member state side. So we had very long and complicated discussions whether this would be breakable or breakdownable, and if we would actually even get applications for this. Yes. And I mean, I'm standing here even now being about emotional or being proud. We had many, many more applications than we actually expected. So that is something which is really rewarding for us and for the work. Now we have to see the other way around. How do we manage the expectations? Because this is a thing, it's a lot of effort if you apply for any of these things, especially when it's not a typical project. And then if you cannot be rewarded by winning the project, of course, we have to see that there are more opportunities where the community can build in, and this is good because this was just a pilot call that we launched, and we're going to roll out this action over the next couple of years. So it's going to be really good for all of us because there's more to come. So don't despair. If you handed in a proposal, you're not going to be in the first line. So it's for sure there's more opportunities coming up. So maybe also what is important, because that's what we worked on, that we have 5 missions. We have missions on climate, we have a mission on oceans, we have a mission on health. And our mission board chair, when he started out his work, he used to say quite self-confidently, the soil mission is at the very heart of this, because of course soil relates to carbon, to climate. Of course soil relates to health and safe food. Of course soils relate to filtering of water and so on. And we also have to make sure that between the missions we have to work in a more integrated manner to make sure that we kind of catch all these different angles to the best we can. So we also work together with the colleagues of the other areas, and Bridget will be happy to note that we also work on subsoils, which was before an area where we work a lot on topsoils, but not necessarily there. So we also try to cover gaps that we do. So on the living labs and lighthouses, so again a little bit, so living labs, sites for experimentation, bottom-up involvement, creating real impact on the ground, and lighthouses for demonstration. So that's a different type. So it's can be a living lab who has already done something, which is good, so to show off. We already have a number of lighthouses. Lighthouse farms will be there for the 3rd day, I know. So this is very good because this helps with experimentation and demonstration, because what we in the end really want is core action on the ground. So to empower rapid transition, the living labs will have the potential to do this. So it was mentioned before, because we often get asked 100 living labs. Well, is this really a man on the moon? Headline goal? Maybe not. But if you know that under the 100 living labs and lighthouses, you have over 1,000, maybe up to 2,000 testing sites all over Europe in the different conditions, it's quite an achievement if you think it in terms of an area where it's not yet a demonstration farm or an experimental farm, but where really it is an uncovered, let's put it like that, soil of public action. So this is important. So it's really an end user approach, and it's also adapted very much to local ecosystems, of course. So to finish, a word on soil literacy, communication, and citizens' engagement. A lot has been done. This is, even if there's, of course, not so many ordinary citizens here today, but still it's part of the engagement. So, of course, we have the Soil Mission Manifesto, which we launched in April. And we have many more things that we've done. So we're engaging with and activating municipalities and regions. This is something where we're still quite weak, where we still have means to do, because this is important that we get these actors on board, because this is finally where the actions really takes place. So it's also fostering soil education across society. So this is important that we get soil into the curricula everywhere across Europe. And you know, at European level, we don't have a European education policy, but we have the means to give advice or to get into professional, general schools curricula. And this is really important because, believe it or not, this is not something which is necessarily covered everywhere. Citizen science is important, and also the next generation of soil advisors, Bridget was mentioning it, this is indeed key. We also work on it under the Common Agricultural Policy to get a set of advisors who know what is not the latest technology necessarily, but the best adapted technology for a local given problem. So that the farmers doesn't know, he looks to the neighbor maybe, yeah, okay, now I'm talking about farmers again, for foresters of course as well. So this is key, so we have to make more there. And then just a pause to say, so what have we achieved so far? And I think what is key, apart from the living labs now starting, is that the mission is integrated in 18 out of the 28 Common Agricultural Strategic Plans. So this might sound, again, very bureaucratic, but this is, this is the very means. So if we do something under research and innovation, so how do we get action and how do we get the funding from different policy areas to also help us implement all of this? And this is really key, that we work more across the different policies at European level, but also at national level, very much so. And this is also there, we have a fantastic tool, the European Innovation Partnership, the EIP AGRI, which can actually replicate and upscale with funding under the rural development programs, what we do under the soil mission. And that is really important, so that the different authorities also talk to each other, so that we really get some action going. So we also have, with the European Investment Bank, we're developing, for instance, a large-scale soil investment pipeline. So this is also important for the very costly projects, so talking about soil decontamination and so on, so that we get investment at a different scale going. And then, of course, also, we talk about EU soils here, but, we have to talk about soils globally as well. So we do not have to forget about the international, let's say, dimension of this, and also under the mission we are fostering this. So we're on a good way. It's good, so we're on track on some of the things, but we have to become better. So we have to strengthen and have a better coordinated administrative governance. So we have to secure more and better co-investments also beyond Horizon Europe, including from the private sector. So we have to enhance the synergies with other EU instruments and also improve the communication efforts and outreach to stakeholders. So it's good that we start, for instance, working with philanthropic organizations across Europe. So this is a specific call. So really there's means for working together. So we're quite open. I think we're now equipped to also translate this into concrete actions and not just, let's say, an oral commitment that soils are important for all of us, but how can we actually do this? How can foundations or private sector that have additional means actually team up with us? So that's also something which we're trying to manage and get better at. So the Soil Mission Manifesto, please sign it, and please get your municipality, your region to sign it. This is important. So I'm sure that a lot of municipalities and regions are out there already doing so many good things. So please capitalize on it. So we often get the question, so what's in it for me? Why should I sign it? Is it just declaratory, or what's really there? But it's really because of coming a community. You gain visibility and access also to mission knowledge, involvement in activities, and this is much beyond just simple research and innovation calls. So I think that's key. So out there should be some colleagues with the manifesto. So voila. And last but not least, please visit the Mission Soil platform. If you have any question left open or want to know more, this is it. And now we go to the real testimonies that will put this into practice. Thanks a lot.
Kirsten, thank you. Thank you so much, Kirsten. So if you didn't get the QR code that was on screen there, I don't know whether that's the same one or not that does that one take you through to signing it? That one should do, great. So if you didn't get the QR code before, there it is. That takes you straight through to the manifesto so you can sign it. And as Kirsten said, we have them outside as well. So during the lunch break, you can use that QR code. And if you're watching us online, there you go. You can zoom in on that on your PC screen at home and make sure you sign the manifesto. So, as Kirsten said, what we are going to do now is basically get into the detail and hear from 3 case studies, 3 examples, 3 different land managers working with agricultural, forest and urban soils to find out what they are doing, but also what instruments they are using. And actually probably picking up from some of the things that Kirsten was talking about, enhancing those synergies, getting the collaboration, the coordination, the standardization, just to see what they are doing. So we are delighted to have the 3 of them here with us. We're going to start with a land manager who's working with agricultural soils, who, as part of her work, helps farmers throughout southern Spain. She's also the founder of the Regeneration Academy. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to stage Yannick Schorhoven.
Hello everyone, my name is Yannick Schorhoven, and here on this beautiful picture you see me with my husband Alfonso and our kid, and in my belly another one. I am a farmer of La Jonquera. La Jonquera is based in the south of Spain. We are based in a semi-arid area in Murcia, between Andalusia and Murcia actually. And we are in quite an extreme climate. We have around 300 liters of rain a year. We have summers that are completely dry. Now also winters that are completely dry. We have cold winters actually. We have a frost season from September until May because we are at 1100 meters altitude. And you could say we are in the middle of nowhere. That's what people say. And even so, they do come to us. So that's a good sign. But we are in a region that is quite depopulated. The closest by village that actually has people living there, more than 5, is 30 kilometers away. And it's getting more and more depopulated. So what you see is that the farms around us, people leave. Some people already say that it's very difficult to still make a living. There is very little irrigation, there's very little water, and unfortunately, at the moment, the little water that is there is now taken by companies that come from the coast to plant vegetables. And so also our aquifers are actually emptying on a very, very rapid pace. So we are, in an extreme situation. Let me see how I get to the next one. Oh, yes, no. Yes. As I said before, we're an 1100 hectare farm. We are almost all rain-fed. We have 2 hectares of irrigation for our own use, for some vegetables and some other things. And we are also an educational hub for people to learn about regenerative agriculture. So we have people coming from all over the world to learn how to actually implement regenerative practices, how to improve our soils, our biodiversity, and we also work a lot with local high schools, which is really great. So last half a year, we had over 1,000 students coming to our farm to learn about climate change, to learn about soil health, and especially to learn that it is possible to actually do something, and it is possible to live on a farm, to work on a farm that is not degrading the landscape, and you can make a living of it. Why do I say you can make a living of it? Because when we started 14 years ago, when Alfonso started to take over the family farm, it was a conventional cereal farm, and it had 1 worker. Now we are regenerative organic. We have over 25 full-time people working on the farm. We have over 20 crops, and we have an average increase of organic matter of 1%. So even in a semi-arid area, it is possible, it's doable, it is work, but it's not that difficult. And I would really recommend it to everyone. So in the Regeneration Academy, which is based on La Jonquera, we work to transform the agri-food system. We do this on a local level with local high school students, but also we organize events for farmers. So 2 weeks ago, we had an event with the Benchmarks European project, where 50 local farmers came to learn about soils, learn how to improve their soil health, and they brought their bag of soil to get it tested by the university. And on an international level, we work within Europe to share what we know that works in our context, of course, and to also learn from other people, from other farmers, because I think in farming there's always more innovation and ways of improving. So just to get into a few practices, because I only have 6 minutes, some things that we do, we have dug over 60 ponds on our farm. We started with some crazy project of a very big pond, which cost us 10,000 euros, after which we decided you can also start small, because that pond almost got flooded away by a very big storm. But it does help, and it does make a difference. We see little ecosystems thriving all over the farm, having water all year round, which is quite unique in a very dry area. Within 1 week after digging a pond, we already have thousands of frogs there. We see the soil change a lot around these ponds. It becomes a lot darker. There's grass, green grass, even in summer. And actually, this is one of the ways that we use to infiltrate the water slowly to refill the aquifers. Another thing that we do is we plant hedges and borders all over the farm. So we have around 30,000 trees and shrubs planted as hedges and borders all over our farm, which is many, many, many kilometers of plantings. And we see that there is a huge increase in biodiversity. This is, of course, the above ground biodiversity. A lot of pollinators coming back. As this is such a dry area where we live, it's very difficult for pollinators to stay all year round, because in summer there's just no flowers, and winter also not. There's just a very short period of flowers. But because of these plantings, we see that we have a lot more pollinators all year round, because we work with specific species that can help. The ground cover that we do is challenging, as we have very little rain, but I'm going to show that better here. Yeah, as a regenerative farmer, you'll always hear no-till, but we are also organic, so there you get a bit into the difficult part. So what we've done, we said, okay, let's go, no-till. Then we had all our pistachio trees almost dying, because no-till with very poor soil is a very bad idea. And then we said, okay, let's talk to experts on how to actually do this. We also put a lot of students on this, and at some point we saw that if we had vegetation strips, that could actually work. And there was not a negative effect on our yields. The trees did well. And because of the vegetation strips, we also stopped erosion almost completely. So it's a compromise. It's not perfect, but it works. And we hope that by improving our soil health, little by little, we will be able to have a bigger ground cover every year. Yes. We've now been busy for 14 years on our farm, and we are ready to scale out. So we have already been doing this on 1,000 more hectares on other farms, where we've transformed the farms to become organic and regenerative. But we are part of a big valley of 30,000 hectares, of which we are actually the source of a river. The river starts at La Junquera, and up till 10 years ago, it flowed all the way down through the valley, both in winter and summer. And since a few years ago, the river is dry. And the valley has filled up with very intensive vegetable farms. So our big, audacious goal is to restore this valley by regenerative practices, by working together with many, many farmers, and bringing back the river. We hope that in 20 years, we have managed to do this, that we can drink the water from this river again, which was drinkable up to a few months ago, and that there's more people living in this valley with us. Thank you a lot.
Yannick, thank you. Do you want to come and take a seat? All our guests have agreed to take questions at the end. So as you're listening to the presentations, if you'd like to submit a question, if you are watching us online or here in the room, please do use Slido, and we can get through as many questions as possible at the end. That's all right with you? Fantastic. So started with agricultural soils, we're now going to move on to forest soils and hear from someone who's actually been consulting on EU projects since, 2016. So from Bavaria, where she focuses on agroforestry, please welcome Theresa Luber.
Hello, it's nice to be here, invited to present a project from a forester from Bavaria, from Landsberg am Lech, which is close to Munich. He's called Ludwig Pertl, and he's actually fighting for sustainable forest management with a focus on soil and ecosystem services for already 40 years now. And this is kind of his last project before he retires, or he's actually already retired, but he doesn't stop working for his big dream. And I'm very happy that I can present this project to you today. As I said, Live Future Forest, it's an almost 4-year project. We are at the end of the project, and it's about the sustainabilization of forests and soils and the valorization of ecosystem services. And climate change is a big challenge also in the forests, as we have less water in the vegetation period. With this little water that we have in Bavaria and all over Europe, we have a lot of spruce forests who have only very little roots into the deeper areas, and therefore with the less water that we have, we also have a change in the potential vegetation. And from our point of view, the best way to go through this change with the climate, we need healthy and living soils. We are aware that healthy and living soils are very important in agriculture, but what we notice is that in forests, the focus on soil is mostly forgotten. When I'm talking about healthy and living soils, I'm talking mainly about 3 parameters, how we can, what is needed that we are focusing on in our project. It's the humus forms, it's the fine roots, and it's the earthworms. As you can see on the right-hand side, in the slide, all of those 3 parameters are influencing each other, meaning that when we have soil, we need a healthy and living soil. Underneath spruce, there's no healthy living soil. It's very acid. There is little biodiversity, so we need to improve the soil. We cannot just change the soil as it is, so we have to make it in a different way. And our point of view is that we have to focus on the trees, meaning we need trees that have a lot of fine roots, that have deep roots, that they can actually have a better water availability, and the fine roots also provide nutrition. Furthermore, we have to focus on trees that have, I'd say, yummy leaves for earthworms. Because if we plant trees that have a lot of tannic acid in their leaves, then the earthworms are not going to come. And we all know that earthworms are like really important to improve the soil and the humus. And therefore, one of our ideas is really to plant earthworm-friendly trees that provide many and deep fine roots to improve the soil itself. As you can see here also on the right-hand side, this nice graphic, it shows that we want to go away from sprouts, monocultures, towards a deciduous, mainly deciduous mixed forest with a healthy living soil where we have a lot of soil biodiversity and earthworms. Because we think that the better the soil is, the better the trees can grow, and the higher is the resilience of the forest towards climate change. And obviously, we do not just want an adaptation and afforestation of the forests in Bavaria and in Landsberg, but we also want to contribute to an EU-wide acceptance and implementation of sustainable forest management with a focus on soils. For this, the system that we developed also 3 tools to make this easy applicable and replicable in other areas. Meaning we designed a self-assessment tool for forest owners, we designed a valorization system with a focus on ecosystem services, and in the end, the Future Forest Handbook, bringing everything that we created during this project together. And I would like to present you those 3 tools. Our Future Forest self-assessment tool, it's a very simple tool to see in an easy way for a forest owner what his or her forest look like. So we evaluate different categories in the forest to see what is the overall level of the forest. On the very top, we have the tree species. So we have to see, do we have a lot of coniferous trees or more deciduous trees? Then also we have to see what is the soil like, what humus form do we have? Is it raw humus like mold, or is it mole humus? Important is also the type of cultivation. Do we have a monoculture? Are the trees all the same age, or is it more a planter-like forest with a different structure and different tree species? And what is also important is the natural regeneration, the browsing. And so every forest owner by himself or with the help of a forester, of the Forest Owner Association, can actually then evaluate their forests and see, okay, what is the overall level that they have. I also brought you 2 examples, what we mean with level 1 and level 4. You can see on the left-hand side, we have, it's a monoculture, it's only coniferous trees of one age. And on the level 4, where we say, okay, this is what the forest of the future should look like. We have mainly deciduous trees, we have a mixed age structure, and we have this planter forest-like structure. Okay, now we know where we stand, but we have to improve our forests actually to move forward, and we have to generate a motivation for the forest owners to change their forest management. And for this, we think it's very important to have a valorization. So we created a valorization system, as we think that the current valorization systems are only focusing or mainly focusing on CO2, and this is way too short-sighted, because a forest is not only saving CO2, but it's also creating very important ecosystem services. So our Future Forest Fund shall honor these ecosystem services, and it shall also honor the long-term added value of a forest, and not just give money to forest owners who are changing their forests currently, but create a value for the ones who already have a level 4 forest. We think that it should be between 100 and 400 euros per hectare per year for a forest, depending on its level. And we think that it should be paid by companies and by municipalities. Our main objective is that the local establishment that we have currently in one municipality in the county of Landsberg should be also implemented by more municipalities and forest associations all over Germany and all over Europe, because this is important to generate a motivation and rewards for forest owners, to push the sustainable forest management, and also to generate an appreciation of the society, because in the end all inhabitants of the area have an added value of a healthy living forest with a healthy living soil. And to make this sustainable forest management replicable, we are currently creating a handbook for the sustainable adaptation of forests. It's created for municipalities and for forest owners, and it's a hand-on guidance on both why and how to manage your forest with a focus on living soils. And we will publish this in the beginning of 2024, and I hope that many of you who are working with forests are actually looking at the handbook and forwarding to the people who own forests and can change something. Thank you for your attention.
Teresa, thank you very much. Thank you. Come and take a seat. And again, do remember to put any questions in that you've already thought of, and we'll try and get through as many as possible. Particularly interested actually to know on the level of the finance and where that came from and how that could work. Thank you. So forestry, agriculture, our next area we're going to focus on is urban soils. And we have an expert here in the field of public action, currently concentrating on various urban projects throughout Lille. Very pleased to welcome, joining us now, Jamelia Bentra. Jamelia, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Jamila Bentra. I work in Lille Metropole as an urban agriculture project manager. In advance, let me to tell you that I am a bit sorry about my English because I don't have many opportunities to speak English. But for me, it was today a real opportunity to be here to share with you our vision and solution about source management. And it's why I have decided to go out from my comfort zone. And please be indulgent with me, and maybe I will need my colleague Wim to help me for translation. We will see. Okay, about my presentation, a few words about Lille Metropole. Okay, this is the agenda. Lille Metropole is an urban and public authority. We are located in north of France. We are very close to three capitals, 1 hour by train from London and Paris, and 1.5 hour from Brussels. We have 95 municipalities, more than 1 million inhabitants, and we have €2 billion yearly budget in order to act in different policies such as urban development, economic development, transport, culture, water, energy, agriculture, etc. About my presentation, another information, 50% of our territory is concerned by agricultural activity. About my presentation, I have 3 messages to share with you today. One at operational level, the second at strategic level, and third at European level. At operational level, today, Lille Metropole supports 3 agriculture urban projects. And in this frame, we realize source analysis. And because our industrial past, all soils are polluted. And our soils are not compatible with agriculture for food. Experts propose us to remove topsoils polluted to replace it by healthy soils. But the problem is we don't have healthy soils. It's more and more difficult to find this resource because it has been overexploited, and it's more and more expensive when we find it. But we have to answer the political order, and we have to find solution in short term. Experts propose, and this is why, sorry, it's the next, okay. Experts propose the name, the word in French is technosol. I don't know if it's the same word in English. And to respect our main goal to develop our agriculture urban project, we have decided to build a research action program. This program brings together several stakeholders. We have public and private laboratories, we have private companies, we have startups, we have urban farmer, association and public authority. The main ambition of this research action program is to identify the resources available at the scale of our territory. When I talk about resources, I talk about organic and mineral material from works, public works. And the main idea is to test different recipes with different resources in order to monitor the restoration of function of soils. I'll talk about fertile function, carbon sequestration, water storage, and soils as a support of biodiversity. The main idea is if we use healthy material, maybe we will start a project, urban agriculture project without delay. We signed a contract, a research action contract last week for 500,000 euros with national funds, and we have ambition to have European funds to go further. We have funds for 2 years of monitoring. To go further, at the strategic level, we want to take advantage of this research action program to question the legal framework at European level. Let me to explain you, because today, when you develop an urban plan on an urban project, you have, of course, you have to identify your needs, your program, housing, public facilities, transport, etc. And only after, you have to identify the negative impact of your program, of your needs, on environment in order to reduce, to avoid, to reduce, and to compensate for it. But the problem with this approach is that you will have negative impact on environment in any case. And we want to propose, thanks to our project, to research action program, to think out of the box, and to evolve from a management impact and impact management to resource management in order to preserve, valorize, and create. In example, very concretely with our project, the main idea if we have healthy material on sites, the main goal is to preserve it, because we are going to reuse material, mineral and organic material available at the scale of our territory, we are going to valorize it. And because thanks to these new recipes, we are going to restore function of soils, we are going to create new function of soils. On the one hand, we exploit resources and we create scarcity. And in the other hand, because we create resources, we have ambition to create abundance. Okay, my last message at European level, thanks to our research action program, we have ambition to become a living lab, and we want to join a partnership at European level, and if anyone are interested by our proposal, don't hesitate to contact us, to exchange with us. It will be a pleasure. Thank you for listening.
Jamelia, thank you so much. Come and join us. And I have to say, when you mentioned about the difficulties of finding healthy soils and the cost, your other fellow panelists were nodding. So even though an agreement with you, even though you come from very different areas, there are so many common themes that we can discuss. So, ladies and gentlemen, questions. Let's take some questions. So if you want to use Slido or indeed hands up in the room, it would be fantastic. We can get a microphone over to yourself in a moment. So if we can get a microphone over this side, it'd be lovely. Thank you. In the meantime, let me ask you about the challenges. Yannick, would you like to start for us? What is, I mean, goodness me, the picture you painted of how challenging your environment is very extreme. But what's the biggest challenge when it comes to changing the quality of the soil? That should be, yeah, it looks, yep, microphone number 3 here, fantastic, lovely. Keep it nice and close.
All right. I think for us, the biggest challenge to improve our soils is that for a wide area around us, organic fertilizers are very hard to come by. Almost all shepherds that have had sheep walking around the fields had to stop working because there's almost no ground cover anymore in the fields, so they don't have food, which means they would have to buy it, which means it becomes too expensive. So that means we don't have compost. I know that this problem does not exist in the north of Europe. Bring it to us, please. We could use some. And besides that, you could say you can make compost with natural materials. Of course, that is possible, but as our climate is that extreme, stuff just doesn't grow so fast. So also there, we don't have a lot of green material to use.
What about you, Teresa? The biggest challenge that you find when improving the quality of soils? Obviously, it's not going to be looking for organic matter like that, but what would it be?
Well, in the case of forests, as I already said in the presentation, the soil is mostly neglected. So we are focusing on trees, but that we can increase the resilience of forests by focusing on the soil. It's just forgotten. And then the problem is, like in our case, we are not directly changing the soil, we are doing that indirectly. So we have the challenges via different interests, for example, like nature conservation. They are mostly wanting the nature that we had in the 1950s. They want that back, but it won't work. We will be left with all forests, or many forests, dying due to diseases, extreme climate, and then we will not have any more ecosystem services left. And therefore we need this adapting forest conversion. And then the challenge that we have for the forest owners who want to change their forests, well, the timber industry, this is how many forest owners generate income by the forest. They are focusing on spruce logs and not on deciduous trees. So here we have the missing income. That's why I said, okay, we need a valorization system for the forests, for all the other services they do. Yeah.
And when it comes to the level of payments that you've decided on, that was done in consultation with the timber merchant, the ones who are selling the timber, or this is a figure you've come to? How do you put a price on it? Talk us through the mechanics of that.
So in general, if we have a spruce forest, the forest owners can sell the wood. When we have deciduous trees, as currently there is some trees that can be used, but a lot of the biomass that a deciduous forest is reproducing, it cannot be used for timber industries, but it could be used for local heating systems, for example, for firewood. And we calculated this number not as an extra income for forest owners with sustainable forest management, but to kind of replace the loss of income that they have by not being able to sell the spruce logs anymore. So it's, they are not earning more money than people with spruce forests would earn, but they just have, that they, like the missing income is leveled out.
And presumably when you get to the level 4 forest, was it a very, very healthy forest, there needs to be some monetary incentive to keep it like that? Does there or not?
It's planned that we have every 5 years a monitoring to see if the forest is still in the way that it's receiving either a level 3 or a level 4 valorization.
So yes, there would still be that ongoing. Jamilia, let me turn to you. Urban soils, what is the biggest challenge out of all the challenges that you have? What's the biggest, thorniest problem that you face?
We have two main challenges. The first is time, because we have time of policies, time of return of investments, to the question of how to build an economic model in urban agriculture activity, and time for restore function of soils. It's not the same time, and it's our main difficulties, and it's why we have decided to reuse resources available and to propose recipes with resources available to have solution on short term. We don't know if it's a good solution. We will see. We are going to monitor this solution. And the second is the legal framework, because this approach is very innovative, and we don't have legal framework. We don't know if we need authorization. Every time when we exchange with experts, with authorities, they are very afraid about pollution, and we have to create a new space of exchange, of negotiation with all stakeholders, and it's a lot of work because we have no legal framework.
A lot of work in little time, because you need to change very quickly. Quick show of hands in the audience. Who else has that regulatory pressure or lack of framework, or framework that needs to be changed, that you can relate to what Jamilia is saying? Issues with regulations changing? Yeah, okay. Tell me. Talk to me about your regulatory pressures then.
I think this was actually the first year with the new CAP subsidies that we were the only ones in the wide region of Murcia that were actually very happy. Because this was the first time that everything that we've been doing for the past 10 years was actually inside the subsidy. So for the first time, we have a bit less pressure in that sense. But unfortunately, now everyone started to say that it's not possible. So I think they're actually turning back a lot of those very good things.
Yannick, you also had your hand up as well. Sorry, not Yannick, Teresa, I'm sorry.
No worries. Well, in our case, the issue that we're fighting with when it comes to our valorization system, we went to local communities to ask them for funding for those forest owners who are actually doing something for the society, for the area that they live. But the problem was that the company said they are not gonna give any money because the valorization or the system that we have, or the certificate that we could give them, would only be on a voluntary basis, because we do not have a CO2 certificate, but we focus on the ecosystem services. So it would be something voluntarily, and they decided not to give any money. Luckily, we had one mayor from a municipality who said, okay, we went that far and we really want to have that, and I'm gonna give them money. So we're really proud and happy on that, but we need society to focus also on the ecosystem services, and not just it's all CO2, because otherwise it's way too short-sighted. We really need society to see the added value and to appreciate it, and to have companies, municipalities give money for those ecosystem services.
I'm laughing because I can well imagine you going to companies and saying, we want some money. And they're saying, no,
we don't get anything for it,
yeah,
so why should
what
we
am I
give
going to get
something?
for it? So
Yeah.
no. Well, you'll feel better. It is not enough. Let's grab a question here. If we can have a microphone over to this side. Do we have one here? Fantastic, thank you. And then did I see another hand up over here? So I know where we're going next. Fantastic. We'll be ready with a microphone there. Would you like to introduce yourself first?
Hi, I'm Anna Krzywoszyńska. I'm a social scientist, associate professor at the University of Oulu and a member of the Mission Soil Board. Thank you so much for giving us these wonderful examples. I would like to ask a question about an issue that I see as cross-cutting for all your cases. It's a rather thorny one, so bear with me. In all of your examples, we see a move from the land use which is based on, let's call them universal solutions, for which we then account for the negative externalities, as you discussed specifically in the urban soils case and in the forest soils also. So we have one model of land use, and then we try to deal with the bad that this form of land use causes. In your cases, you are trying to create regeneration, you're trying to create abundance through a better understanding of your local capacities and of your local resources. And this is an approach that is place-based, which is very unusual for the legal frameworks, but also for the research and innovation frameworks, because our research in academia is built more towards generalizing and universalizing than it is about building capacity in places in very specific circumstances. So I would really love to hear more about your experience of engaging with the research and innovation world and your experience of producing the forms of evidence that help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. Who would like to? Yannick, would you like to start?
Yes, it's very place-based, but that doesn't mean that the overall concepts are that different, because we can talk about ground covers, which are maybe something different in the north and maybe a lot easier with irrigation, and maybe if you have very mineral soils, it's a lot harder. But in the end, what we try to teach the farmer is, how do I look at my land? What is my context? And what are the potential possibilities that I can, integrate in my specific context? How can I think holistically? How can I take into account not only, yes, I'm going to add a ground cover, but actually what type? And does this also help biodiversity? And does this also increase the root depth of these plants? And I think that is quite universal, the way that you can think about your farm, and also the way that you can experiment. Because I think experimentation is key, because indeed something that works very well in one of our farms might not work the same in the other farm. But that doesn't mean that the way we go about it is that different. We experiment, we do little things everywhere, and we see which things work best. We plant hedges with different species, and we see which ones are still there after 3 years. And then we, grow that. And that seems to work quite well.
I mean, that comes down to your example of the pistachio trees as well.
Yes.
Where you had to change and alter and realise that something wasn't working. Jamelia, do you want to?
In my opinion, I think in my career, the demonstrator experimentation is a solution to scale up proposal, and very concretely with our research program. At the end, the result will be not a local solution, but a methodology. It's real the comment that we have done for all stakeholders involved in the research program,
to how to identify it in local site, resource available, how to mix, how to work with all stakeholders. It's not just a local solution, it's a methodology, and the main ambition is to scale up this, this approach.
Thank you. Teresa, do you want to come in on that?
I think I could only repeat what Yannick already said, because for the forests it's pretty much the same. And one thing that we are doing, I mean, we are a live project, so the idea is really to have to give something to the EU and to have the networking with research, with a policy and so on, to really make this, in our case, sustainable forest management ongoing and have a replication and a, and the things that we are producing, they're really made for transferability.
Thank you. If I could just ask the technical desk, if I could just have the Slido screen live, that would be fantastic. Thank you. By the way, Carlotta has outdone herself, I think. I love the frog in the middle. Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. We have a gentleman there with a microphone. We'll take that question, and then I'll take some Slido questions as well. Yep, I believe that one is. Just keep it nice and close.
Okay,
there we go.
Working. Yeah, so Ulrich Schmutz, I'm a professor in Coventry University for organic horticulture. Put the question also in Slido, so I'll make it short. I'm interested in Teresa's work, and I'm also working on agroforestry. So for that reason, I would want to ask you about forestry and how that can develop further, maybe towards more agroforestry. And the specific question is, how about grazing chickens or pigs or other livestock in those forests you talked about? And do you feel or have a feeling how that would improve the soil quality if one would do that on a much larger scale?
Thank you. Where does that fit in with your healthy forests?
Well, thank you for this good question. I will take that home to the whole project team, actually. We are currently going for another EU-funded project where actually the county of Landsberg is focusing on agroforestry, so that's already on the schedule. However, within this Live Future Forest project, we have not had the capacities to go for all the details, all the research, all the implementation that would have been needed. But I personally think that combining the different areas would have an added value for all areas, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. It's a question to you, Yannick, but I'm going to put it to all of you. And that's, what do you need from the soil mission and also from soil science to improve your work, to improve what you're doing with agriculture, with forestry, and with urban areas as well? So what do you need? What would help? What would be good?
Do you have a moment?
Is it going to be?
I have a long list.
Continue.
There we go. No. I think what is very important for us is soil analysis. As we have a very big farm, it's very expensive. It's around 100 euros per soil sample, and we need many. And I think it's one of the best ways to actually know if what we're doing works. We have done it in our cereals. We've seen a 1% increase in organic matter compared to our conventional neighbor. We've seen that we actually do have microbiology in our soil, bacteria and fungi, while our neighbor had non-detectable. So I think that is very important knowledge. And that is something that if we know it, we can share it, and people would be convinced that that is a good thing. So that's one. And then another thing that I would really like is that for our Valley project, which is 30,000 hectares, we would like a very good map of our 30,000 hectares.
A map? What?
Yes.
Hang on. But you've...
With all the information possible about soils, about management, about water underneath soils, everything. Yeah.
Okay.
I will keep it at these two things.
So is that, I'm sorry, but there's hysterics over there somewhere from someone. Are you looking at a technical IT solution so that you can quite literally, you want a Google for your farm, basically.
I will want Google Earth gone mad.
Okay.
On 30,000 hectares. Like
So
all the layers possible, everything.
Everything. So it's amalgamating all the data that's there with, I'm guessing, click, searchable, different. Okay.
Yeah, I think it would majorly help to design this project.
Okay, so you want the Elon Musk of the agriculture word?
Yes.
Okay. If anyone knows him or her, then we need to have a chat. What do you need from Mission Soil, Teresa?
Promote our reward system or create another rewarding system to focus more on ecosystem services, to go one step further and not just stay with the CO2 and leave the forests like this, but to promote the adaptation of forests, and also to promote the importance of healthy living soil in forests. Because for agriculture, everyone knows that we have to focus on soils. And I think most of you do know that here for forests as well, but out there, it's not like that, unfortunately, and we have to really change that.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that point in a minute because I think that's a point that's applicable to so many people. But Jamelia, what do you need from Mission Soil?
Because we are very at the start of our research program, and we have ambition to develop a methodology in order to scale up our solutions. We don't want to work in silo, and we are looking for partner in order to exchange at the very first step of our project to collect all information available and useful for us.
Any more questions in the room? Fantastic. If I can get a microphone, lovely. Thank you very much. Well, did I see another one over? Yeah, and we have another one there. Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Carlos Guerra. I'm also Portuguese, but I'm here representing the project Solo, and we are a research-based project. My question is for you, Yannick, because right now there's a proposal for the European soil law monitoring, and they establish certification for soil, so they want to have soil health certificates. And currently there's a lot of fight regarding what it means for farmers and for the price of farmland if you now put a certificate saying this is a good soil. And the question I have for you is, what is your opinion on that? And is this something that you think it will affect your daily life or not?
So to be clear, you're saying, therefore, the soil is more of a premium if it is certified?
For example,
okay.
Yeah, it can be by the premium or not. So if you don't have this certification,
it's not worth as
it's
much.
Not worth it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Interesting.
It might actually help to improve soils on a very large scale. That is totally possible. It's also very possible that, of course, it will benefit the few. That is also a very real possibility. On the other hand, if we would buy land, we would always look at soil health, and we would always check what is the soil quality, and we would know what does the yields do in that field. So I think for a farmer, they already kind of know because they look, at what they buy. But yeah, it might make that a lot more people are going to look at, improving their soil health, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Do you think it might create more of a divide, though, with farmers who either have the knowledge base or the capex, the money that they need to start any processes, therefore getting more wealthier, more valuable soils, and those that can't, actually they keep losing out?
I think that farmers with a lot of money are not necessarily taking good care of their soils.
I think we'll just leave that point there, shall we? Do either of you want to come in on that? Because it's a sort of a similar, if you can put a value on a forest, does it, I mean, I think, you know, we know, Teresa, what your view is because this is a scheme you're advocating. So I take it you would think it does work.
Well, we have forest owners, farmers and so on who change something, go towards an organic or sustainable way for an intrinsic motivation, but then we have others who actually need an extrinsic motivation, and I think that's the people that we are addressing if we support them by funding.
Okay. Jamila, I'm aware your colleague came to speak to you, so if there's something you want to bring in on that.
We exchange about certificates of healthy soils, and in urban plan, it's a very new approach. I don't know.
No, fair enough, fair enough. It's a wait and see then maybe. There was a gentleman with his hand up, now has a microphone. Thank you very much. We also have another question at the back, and we'll move the microphone afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Jorge. I'm a researcher at Aarhus University, and I'm part of PREPSOIL. My question is for Yannick and Teresa, and that is, how would you propose, or what are your ideas about getting foresters and farmers who have systems that work, that keep food on the table and a roof on their heads, where they are on the long term not sustainable, on the long term not good for soil health, on the long term not good for all the ecosystem services that you could be thinking about? How will you get them to take that leap of risk, to experiment, to find their own local solutions, to do things that are actually better in the long term, to step away from these old paradigms of universal solutions where the infrastructure already exists, where the commercial pathways already exist, and take the time and the risk to experiment to find their own local solutions that are best for their local soils.
Sure, and I wonder, I'm also going to put in there, is it a generational thing as well? So just very briefly, if I can, how do you get farmers, land managers to go, right, I'm changing?
I think there's a few ways of doing that. I think one way is showing that it works financially. Being an example, and the farmers around you at some point will come to you to see how you do it. I would say that's one. A second one I've seen through interviews with 40 farmers locally is that one of the key moments for them to change was understanding the ecosystem, starting to understand how everything is connected, and then knowing that you are part of it, which made them not be able to unsee that, and therefore they would change. Then still there is, again, the money issue, because some things just do cost money to implement, or experiments don't entirely work out. And therefore, there's initiatives, there's associations that you can become part of. We are, for example, a part of an association in the south of Spain for regenerative farmers, which now has 400 farmers part of it. So I think that those do work, and those can help also with information and knowledge sharing. And I do think it helps a lot if there is in the CAP subsidies some kind of basic practices that you just have to do. Like in our case now, vegetation strips, they are not mandatory yet, but you do get some extra money. So you do now all of a sudden see them everywhere. It's not perfect, but if then people see that because of that, they don't have a lower yield and actually nothing is really changing and it doesn't cost them more, then maybe even at some point when those subsidies end, they would keep doing it because it doesn't have a negative effect on their income.
So it's pushing first with the finances, and then it continues. Yeah, absolutely. Then they see what happens. Just very, very briefly, Teresa.
Pretty much the same as Yannick already said, and really making a combination of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, because if people know why they are doing something and what positive effect it has, then they say, okay, I'm ready to risk that. If they have an easy guidance on how to do it so that the risk is reduced, and then have a funding that helps them to kind of overcome the time where maybe you have less income. I think that will help also to reduce the risk and then make people become, more sustainable in their way of thinking and acting.
Throw the money at it, and then people come along and realise actually it works anyway. We are out of time, but I wonder whether you'd just like to have a quick look at what Carlotta has done. We've got an ant, the frog, the worms. Goodness me, absolutely superb. And I think you might quite like your Lille Metropole there up in the top right-hand corner, Jamelia. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank our expert panelists here. Thank you very much. Thank you. And are you all happy to take questions if people approach you over lunch? Fantastic. Great. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before you move for lunch, just before you move, let me just tell you about the breakouts that we have coming up afterwards. You have the QR code on the back of your badges. Yes, fantastic. So that will help you find your rooms for the breakouts. If not, maybe you'd like to take a picture of the screen now so that you can see where you're going, the 3 different breakout sessions. So that's where you will go after the lunch break. Then we will all come back here together to discuss what you have talked about in the breakouts. So please use the QR code when you get outside to sign the mission manifesto. Take a look at the pictures and say, oh, you'd all like to go back, would you, to the... Oh, that's a different... Oh, apparently they're different on the thing. Okay, we will find out for you whether you follow the slide or whether you follow what's on your QR code. It's the slide, is it? Okay, fantastic. So that's what we need. There you go. They are the 3 breakouts for you. Ladies and gentlemen, go and enjoy your lunch break. We will make sure you know where to go during the breakouts. And we will see you all back in the room at 4:30. Thank you very much. Thank you.